Tonight, Jack will discuss fracking, a violent process that dislodges gas deposits from shale rock formations. It is known to contaminate drinking water, pollute the air, and cause micro-earthquakes. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to introduce Jack Darin.
I do work for the Sierra Club, Illinois chapter. We do have a little bit of a complicated view of natural gas because there are real benefits to our economy and, at least in the short term, to our environment from increased natural gas production. We've been working for a long time to try to move Illinois beyond coal-generated electricity towards renewables, and the increase in natural gas that has come from hydraulic fracturing has certainly helped in that effort. It is a fossil fuel. It does have air pollution associated with burning it, but it's less than coal. So there are some good things in addition to the at least temporary lowering effect it's having on electric prices. Because as we walk through what some of the impacts of fracturing are in this new method of getting the gas, it's important for us to realize that there's a lot of interest in society in not the negative impacts, but some of the economic and the energy impacts that are coming from it. And the chemicals really aren't there to break up the rock formation. The chemicals are primarily there to keep the well flowing up and down. You can imagine a well that has a curve in it that's over a mile long is pretty difficult to keep entirely free and clear. Illinois faces a little bit of a double jeopardy when it comes to fracking, because not only do we have the gas in our state in those counties in Illinois, but we also happen to be home to some of the best fracked sand in the whole world. Places where we may not see the actual drilling for the gas, we could very well see a big increase in open pit sand mining. This is why it's so important that we make sure that these wells are cased adequately, that they're inspected, and that they're built to very rigorous standards. If these wells are leaky, they're carrying some very dangerous materials down and up right through our water supply. So if we can make sure that these wells are built correctly and that they're maintained over time and inspected, then perhaps we can deal with this threat. Theoretically, if you can find a site that is not connected to a drinking water source, if your well is sited and operated correctly and built right, there is some confidence that you can inject these hazardous wastes deep in the earth. But this opens up a whole new area of activity that we need to watch and make sure is going to work. A lot of these wells are old. A lot of them may not have been used for a while. They're not inspected regularly. So if we're going to turn to deep well injection as an alternative to dumping this stuff at the local sewage plant, we really got a lot of work to do, and our government agencies have a lot of work to do to make sure that these facilities are safe. They say they don't use a great deal of water. It's just not true. They use a tremendous amount of water, and in many cases, we don't really know where this water is going to be coming from. And so what do we, in the environmental community, want to see happen? Well, does this have to happen at all is obviously the first question that comes to mind, and obviously would be a lot more comforting if we could simply say, no. This is a really dangerous technology. We don't even understand it very well. But I think it's important to recognize that there is a lot of support for this activity. There are people that are poised to make money directly off leasing themselves. We have a coalition of our state's business community and organized labor just 2 weeks ago that announced a brand new initiative to bring fracking to Illinois for economic development and job creation reasons. There are interests that, including all of us, that have something to win from low energy prices. So I think it's important when we think about the environmental downsides to think about the reasons why, when it comes to Springfield and our policymakers, that people really are not willing, unfortunately, to just say no. It would be a lot easier. So that puts us in the position of having to figure out what kind of safeguards would have to be put into place by the state to make sure that we don't see the kind of messes that have been made in other states made here. And unfortunately, there's no one state that we can look to that's got it right so far. So there's been a lot of work over the last year and a half to try to look for best practices on all these different areas of impacts and figure out how we can write the toughest set of safeguards in the country. We know for sure that if people are going to be putting chemicals down into the earth under Illinois, that we need to know exactly what those chemicals are. And Illinois should be asking for the least toxic and the most protective chemicals possible, and we should know exactly what they are. I think that we have to know that those well casings are going to be well built, they're going to be built by professionals, they're going to be inspected regularly if we're going to have any hope of not causing direct aquifer contamination. Unfortunately, we're in the position of doing a lot of the work that we could normally count on the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to do by closing a lot of the loopholes to those federal laws. So for instance, we would like to see no use of these open pits in Illinois. If there's going to be wastewater coming out of fracking wells, we really want to see it put into tanks where it can't get into surface water or groundwater. We don't want to see this stuff disposed of in our wastewater treatment plants. I think that given the nature of where fracking is likely to occur, which are some of the most beautiful parts of our state, and where the sand is likely to come from, we're really recommending that the state do some planning to avoid conflicts like the one at Starved Rock. We need to acknowledge that whatever we would come up with in 2013 maybe, hopefully, would be the strongest program in the country today, but it wouldn't be for very long. This is a fairly new industry. There's a lot of innovation occurring, and we would want our safeguards to constantly reflect the best practices, the least toxic, the least water-intensive methods available to the industry. US EPA is not able to do much in terms of regulating, but Congress has charged them with doing a major national health study on fracking that's due out next year. We should automatically reopen anything that's in place before 2014 when that study comes out so that we can adopt or at least consider any recommendations that they'll have to make the process safer, less dangerous. So at the moment, this is a very hot topic in Springfield.